girl, you got me.
Hello and welcome back to Hindsight is 50/50. I'm the host J-Rod with my co-host the ORG. Welcome to 2024. Dad, how you doing?
All right, man. It's been a long time. It's been a long time.
Yeah, a little bit. A lot of stuff's happened.
Yeah.
Good and bad.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But yeah, no, I'm doing okay. I mean, it's bitter cold, as I think most of the country is going through bitter cold. But I think this morning, I believe it was -5 at our house, and that's cold. And I just, we got this. The snow we got was about the most inconvenient kind of snow it could be, because it was heavy, wet snow, and it was snowing when it was like 35 degrees. And I thought, well, shit, a lot of it's not going to stick. Wrong. Then it started getting cold, and man, that stuff, once it sets up, after it was, it was such heavy, wet snow. Once and it sets up and gets cold like this, you got to chip it off. I mean,
yeah, well, it's like glass almost.
Exactly. And super heavy to move. Like I said, I was out earlier today, plowing our driveway because it had drifted, and I have to get out tomorrow. I have a doctor's appointment, but I was, plowing our driveway, and I mean, I never thought seriously about getting a cab on that tractor, I mean, different guys have them, and they're well equipped, and there's AC, and they have heaters and windshield wipers and all the defrosters and all that stuff. Well, I never seriously thought about it because it's such a pricey item. Well, I was thinking about it today.
Yeah.
It was freaking cold, man.
Yeah. I mean, I'm surprised you don't at least have like zip-on doors for the mule or something, just to keep you out of the bitter cold.
I bundled up, and I had a mask on, so it really wasn't too bad. And I wasn't out there that long, and I got enough to, I got the truck out, and I got your mom's van where we can get it out, and so mission accomplished. But I know we've been sick. I had that RSV crap, and I know your mom had it too. I mean, I tested for it. She didn't. I mean, because I have to go to the doctor. But it's been like 5 weeks, and I don't have any wind. I mean, I don't have any just breath. I mean, I could take a deep breath, but the least little bit of activity, and I'm out of breath. And I know you've been sick, since the last time we met. My brother Rick passed away, so it's like in basically 2.5 years, I've lost all my siblings. In fact, it's not even that long. It's 2 years. It's 2 years, and I've lost all my siblings. I'm the only one left. I've lost 2 sisters and a brother. And, and Rick had been...
I mean, when you say it like that, it seems kind of appropriate. And that's not meant to be mean. That's... They all in life kind of follow the leader with one another on what they could and couldn't get away with. and then it's like, of course, it's like, well, this one passed away, so then the next one steps up in line, and then the next one steps up in line, and it's just like it's almost like they passed away in the same way that they lived their lives.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. This one has obviously it's hit me pretty good. Rick and I, and we had drifted apart over the years for a lot of different reasons, but in recent years we had really kind of reconnected. And he was really helping take care of Mom, and he lived there. And so that, and that's not easy, because Mom's really hard of hearing. She can be demanding too. And and so now I'm 30 miles away, and I have to go out there every other day and walk the dog, and check on her. And your mom does her grocery shopping pretty much, and I pick up odds and ends that she needs. So it's just another one of those things. Like we've talked about it before about things that happen to you as you get older, and becoming a caretaker for your parents is part of that. So, but yeah, Rick. It was tragic. I think I've said, you know,
Well, it
it,
was sad, but for our listeners out there, it was peaceful.
yeah, and
So
it
he went
wasn't
through dialysis, came home, took a nap, and didn't wake up. It wasn't
exactly.
severe suffering.
No, and he had been on dialysis for several years. I mean, 5 or 6 years anyway. And because he had cancer and he was a cancer survivor, he had lymphoma, and they treated it with chemo, and when they did, it fried his kidneys. And so then he was on dialysis, and he had been on dialysis for, I want to say, 6 or 7 years. And he was on a transplant list, but again, that's nothing happened. And you could see, I mean, Rick was getting weaker, and like you said, he went, he got to where he was only going to dialysis twice a week. He went 3 times a week for a long time, and I mean that's like hours while they, you know, while they go through that process. And he had weakened more, I would say, in the last year, and you could tell it. It was really hard on him. He looked kind of jaundiced. He had lost even more weight, and he wasn't big to begin with.
No,
Um,
itty
but
bitty.
yeah, he went through his normal routine, got up early in the morning, went to dialysis, and I would even arrange my visits around his dialysis because I didn't want to go out there on a day when he had dialysis, and he didn't want me to because he was so tired. He was kind of zapped, you know. So I would go out there on non-dialysis days so we could visit, and he always liked to reminisce and talk and about playing sports. I mean, he was a really good basketball player and a hell of a guitarist. I mean, he played in blues bands that were really, really good. And you know, he went through his normal routine. He goes to dialysis. He comes home to take his nap, and like you said, he never woke up. So a lot of
Yeah, but in
people
my
like,
opinion, you got to be doing something right to go out with it being that easy, if that makes sense. Like,
well, I think
uh,
that's how everybody'd like to do it. I
yeah,
mean, nobody wants to do it, but if you got to do it, that's the way to do it, right?
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and but anyway, so that's kind of impacted me. Again, it's bothered me some. Um, I guess as much because I'm the last guy standing of my siblings. My dad's gone. My mom's still around. So
Yeah, I mean,
a little bit. It's been a little bit to get.
Carol was a little bit shocking. Um, then I think Mick took a pretty good toll. I mean, Melissa and I got talking about that the other day, and I just told her, I was like, she was so much younger than my dad that it's like you didn't lose your sister, you lost your baby sister. Like she's always gonna
Right.
be your baby sister.
She's 15
Uh,
years younger than me.
yeah, so that one, grandpa passed away, then Carol, then Mick, and then Rick, and you know you're out of siblings, and you're the only kid left that grandma has, so
Yeah.
you better keep hanging on.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm just gonna show up at her house with like a carved shovel that says Sawyer on it, and like, I mean, we might as well if we're all just gonna keep burying each other. So,
Well, I'm not gonna.
but
I'm
it's
not.
one of those, if you didn't laugh, you'd cry. But no, we had a heck of a run. As far as obviously not just talking about your siblings, but just as far as crap hitting us. Um, over the past couple months, we I think Melissa, the kids, and I got sick, and I want to say Jacob's family and Joe's family all got sick, and this was like before Thanksgiving, and luckily we all got healthy again for Thanksgiving, and then the second set of sickness came around, and I believe Jacob had RSV his wife and kids had COVID, and then he ended up getting pneumonia.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you guys got RSV. And then Melissa and I have just assumed we got both because we were in contact with both of you guys, and we got real sick for a while. And this is coming right up on the end of I was whittling and I cut off the tip of my finger, which that was a ton of fun.
I bet.
That one. Yeah, super sharp knife, super thin. And so I went through my middle finger on my right hand from kind of not like the corner, but like where your fingernail starts to bend. You know, you've got the base of your fingernail and then it starts to like bend to make the curve up over the top end of your finger. So right where it starts to break on that angle and go towards the tip of your finger, from there all the way through the tip, I was whittling a piece of wood, and like the heart of the wood, the center of it was rotten and I couldn't see it and it split. And so instead of, if I was applying any pressure, just slicing straight through, because I wear finger protectors and all this stuff. But that's a finger that's never involved, so I didn't have one on that finger. But instead of slicing straight through too hard or like having the knife jump way out of the way, it got caught in the center and went straight down. And so when it went straight down, I just lopped off, about a good 3/4 of an inch long and at least a 1/4 inch, if not more, deep. And I mean, those knives that I have are so thin and so razor sharp. I went straight through and I instantly just put my hand in my mouth because I knew it happened. And as I go to set down the knife and I look, the other part of my finger is just sitting on the backside of the blade of the knife. It went that clean through and through. There was not any torn up skin. There was not anything to like glue shut or get stitches if I wanted them. I had just taken it off. And so that was one of the worst, if not the worst, I've ever bled. I mean, by the end of it, I started to get a little bit lightheaded, and I know it's not a serious injury, but we couldn't get to stop bleeding, and we actually had to use a clotting kit because, you know, we got somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes in, and I'm still just soaking through like pounds of gauze and tissue and all kinds of stuff. And luckily I had a clotting kit that I could use, and I put it on there, and boy, that son of a bitch burned, but it worked. It burns like crazy, but it did stop the bleeding. And that took, you know, almost a month to make it to where I could touch stuff with my finger and it not hurt, because I'd lost almost all of the toughened skin pretty close to the bone, to be fair. That one was ugly.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, it wasn't fun. It really, you know, and Melissa gives me shit because I am it's hard to explain it about yourself without sounding arrogant, but when it comes to pain or shock, I'm very stoic, if you want to call it. Like, even if it hurts, I just try and sit there and like embrace the pain.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm doing okay when I'm holding my finger and it's pouring blood. But then when I couldn't get to stop, I go, "Hey, Melissa," I cut myself pretty good, and she comes downstairs and she starts grabbing it, and the gauze had stuck to my finger.
Oh, man.
And so she ripped off like the itty bit of skin that was still left, and it just started gushing. And it's like I'm sitting there with my hand behind my back while she's holding it in the sink, and I'm going, "Ooh," and I'm just kind of like hopping up and down a little bit, you know, trying to keep my hand still because I don't have anything to hold on to.
Yeah.
I can't like sit in a chair and push down, and I'm just sitting there going, "Oh," and I mean, there's enough blood. It was on the mirror, it was on the wall, it was all over the sink, and I'm just sitting there like, "Son of a gun," and she gave me crap about it. She's like, "Well, that's the most I've seen you react to anything." She's like all jumping up and down like a sissy. And I was like, "Want me to cut off part of your finger?"
Gruesome.
So during that time, I know that was a bit long-winded. During all of this happening, you were struggling to see. And so you went and eye surgery, correct? But it was not LASIK, it was cataract?
Yep. They put new lenses in my eyes, and it's like night and day. I mean, it's just an incredible, incredible transformation from where I was to where I am. I had each eye done. I had them done 2 weeks apart, and the transformation is amazing. I'm back to I can see like I could see 20 years ago, and I've never had to wear corrective lenses.
So
You
would the
know,
comparable be when you get like a crack in an old windshield on a car and moisture starts to get in there and it's just foggy and scratched up and it's like no matter how much you clean the inside and outside, it's just foggy looking through the glass?
big time, and it's like blurry. Everything was blurry. I would be
Did it cause
you,
bad shine?
there was always like a glow around almost everything.
That
Um,
sucks.
on the road, I would be on top of a speed limit sign before I could tell what it said. I mean, I'd be right on it. Where years ago, I could see those from a half mile away,
Right.
and now I'm back to seeing them. I don't know how far away I can see them now. I know I can see them a long ways away,
Well, how
and
bad was your vision when you went in?
well, he just said that the cataract level, and I don't even know. I don't know why they call it that, because it basically is an ambering of your lens. Your lenses get yellow, and which causes all this distortion in what you see.
Okay.
And so they literally suck out the old lens and they put in a new one. And I mean, when I got tested, he said on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the worst, my left eye was a nine, or my left eye was a 7 and my right eye was a 9. And
You're
now
looking at some pretty brown shit.
I have 20/20 in one eye and 20, I don't know, 20/25,
2025 or something like
yeah,
that, I
in the
think you
other
said?
eye. Yeah. And and again, before, again, 20 years ago and up until even when I retired, I was on the computer a lot, and I'd wear readers. I had readers. In fact, there's a pair of readers I'm looking at right now that are down here on the computer stand. But I'd always have those, and they were the very weak ones. They were like 1.25s. And I think I had graduated to one pair of 1.50s. And I only had one pair of those. Everything else I was still buying 1.25s, but I'd like to have a pair in the car, a pair in the garage, a pair on the
Oh,
motorcycle,
yeah.
because if you need them, you need them. I don't need those anymore. I
That's gotta be nice.
Yeah, I mean, so it's a rousing success. It's like I couldn't believe it. I mean, I was awake while they did it. I
That's
couldn't
weird as
I
hell.
couldn't believe it that it was that easy. It was when they did my first eye, I want to say they did my left one first. And when they did the left one, it was I never even felt it. There was no pain. Now, when they did the right one, I could feel them. It wasn't like pain, but I could feel them doing stuff, you know.
Ew.
But yeah, it's amazing. It's and obviously, I mean, all things considered, I think it ended up costing me, because I'm on Medicare, and it's like because I'm retired, and I think it ended up costing me about $700 out of pocket, and
I mean, that's a hell of
well
a
worth
price
it.
for your vision.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah, and well, I don't know, if Jacob was pissed or what, when we were down there riding, but when we were in West Virginia, but I couldn't see in all the shade. I couldn't see.
You can see brake lights, though.
Yeah,
You're welcome.
yeah. I mean, I don't know.
One tap for left, two taps for right,
I'm
long for
telling you,
sharp.
I'm telling you. Yeah, I just
I remember that. I could
No,
tell
I
that, like,
couldn't
you
see.
told us you couldn't see, but, like, nobody knows to what extent because we can't see through your eyes. But then it's like when we got out there, I could tell. And so it's like I just made sure to get in front of you. And it's like, hey, man, I'm going to keep the same pattern. It's like I'm going to give you a nice tap of the brake light if we're turning left. I give you a nice 2 taps, we're turning right. And it's like if it's going to be a sharp turn, I'm going to hold down the brake for a good 2 seconds. So, it's like we got to slow down. That's all, because it's not like I can help you any other way. So
Right,
it's like,
right.
I hope you can see the shine, man.
Well, and we, when we were in Gatlinburg, I think I bought those yellow lens glasses because they helped. Those like shooter sunglasses that
Well,
had
and
the
let's
yellow
not
lenses.
forget that you not only could you not see, we were riding the tail of the dragon.
That's true.
I mean, it's not like we were going around 1 or 2 turns. We're going around like 118 turns.
318
There you
curves
go,
in
300.
11 miles.
Yeah. So doing that without being able to see very
Yeah,
well.
yeah, it sucks. It sucks.
I wonder
But
what was scarier, being you in that situation or Jacob and I when we got lost in BFE.
I don't know. I wasn't there. But it is. It's just been a weird. I mean, I wasn't. I remember I couldn't even go to JJ's birthday party. I was sick, and
Well,
then
and
we
then the
then we didn't
sickness
have
lingered.
Thanksgiving, and then we couldn't have Christmas. We didn't have Christmas in person. You guys came over, dropped off some stuff. We gave you the
Yeah, we
kids
stood in the
stuff.
yard like it was the beginning of
Yeah,
COVID all over again.
because we were still in quarantine, you know, and
Well, and that
it
was the worst
sucked.
part is we didn't know what you guys had, and we didn't know what we had,
Right.
and so we didn't wanna risk the fact that we both had different things and we gave it to each other. And so it's just like, yeah, I mean, we went from trying to reschedule Christmas, to trying to get just a couple of parts of the family together to everybody just ended up being sick and we just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of a bummer for all the little kids, but we still, luckily because of technology, we still had like a FaceTime Christmas. So
Yeah. I mean, it was a good thing. It was all we had.
yeah,
We
better
couldn't
than
we could
nothing.
yeah, we couldn't do anything else. But, you make do and we did. And
Well, and I mean, I know it's kind of a sad start to our podcast and a slow one, but it's like we just wanted to let the listeners know it's like, hey, we know it's been a while since the last episode came out, but there was kind of this big shit pile right in the middle of our way that we had to clear out and get rid of so that we could get back to it. And hopefully we can get back on a better schedule now.
yeah, I mean, I would hope that hopefully people have missed us. But I would hope that I'd like to do like once every like a couple times a month, every couple weeks. I would think would be good, and maybe it's every week, but I'd like to do it at least a couple times a month. But again, like you said, I'm sick, you're sick, we're both sick. I mean, it was just bad news for a while, and and I'm like I said, I'm a lot busier than I was, you know, before the fall of this year.
Yeah,
Because
and it gets
now,
tough too because the weather. It's like I can't just like have the kids go outside. It's like if they're not sleeping when we record, they're playing, and
right?
it's like I gotta find a quiet space, and that's not very easy to do. So there's a
Right.
lot of stuff, but on a little bit lighter note, we've had some interesting as well as really good sports news while we've been away.
Yeah, I mean, Michigan's run to the national title. That's amazing. That was amazing. I think our listeners know how big of fans we are of Michigan
Yeah,
sports, particularly Michigan football. I mean, neither one of us hide that. And what a run. Um, beating Ohio State again. See, I went through this before when John Cooper was the coach at Ohio State, and I could look up his record, but I want to say he was there somewhere around 10 years, and he might have beaten Michigan once or twice. Well, we had a streak where we had won like 1 out of 15 or 16. It was bad before these last 3. And so to beat them 3 years in a row, to win the conference 3 years in a row, which, again, through my life, Michigan did that fairly routinely. They'd win the Big Ten. I mean, it before the expansion, even before Penn State came in, it was the Big Two, then the Little Eight. Now, people would have good teams. I mean, Hayden Fry had some good teams at Iowa. Michigan State would put out a good team now and then. Purdue would, they'd have a good quarterback. There'd be teams that would jump up and be decent. But by and large, it was the Big Two and the Little Eight. And then, like I said, we went through all this with, they were giving us our lunch on a regular basis. And that was embarrassing. And, I'm not bragging about 3 in a row, but it is 3 in a row. And it beats the hell out of none in a row. And it beats the hell out of losing 15 out of 16.
And I wouldn't discredit any of Ohio State's wins, but it is easy to kick a shit team while they're down. And I mean, Michigan for a decade was shit. And then for about 5 years was trying to figure out the pieces. And now that both teams are good and Michigan has 3 wins, I think I'm much more prideful about that than other ones, because it's like, if Ohio State wasn't good, they weren't ranked, or they were wrongfully ranked just because of their name, it wouldn't feel good to beat them. But they've had pretty good teams.
Oh, well, yeah.
And so doing that in the 3 years in a row, where if they beat you, they're in the playoff because they're that good. That to me is what's been most enjoyable about beating them the past 3 years.
Well, they were 12-0 coming in to bust at 12-0.
Well, and I kind of felt like that when they were having those long seasons with undefeated records. When Michigan was bad, that was kind of like, well, who are they playing?
Yeah, there were 7 years. And John U. Bacon, who's a really good author, he's written some. He's a Michigan guy, and he's a lawyer, but he's a writer, and he's had bestsellers, a New York Times bestseller list. He wrote. He's written several books about Michigan football, and one that I read was called 3 and Out. And it was the Rich Rodriguez story.
Oh, God.
3, and again, you put Rodriguez, and then Brady Hoke, his first year, had a good team, basically with Rich Rod's players. And it was one of those smoke and mirrors where I'm pretty sure Ohio State still won that game. But I want to say Michigan finished 11-2 and actually went to a pretty good bowl game and won it. But it was smoke and mirrors. That team wasn't very good. And I don't know how they did it, but of 7 years of Rich Rod and Brady Hoke, 6 of them were bad. I mean,
well, and I would feel the
Toledo
same.
beating us at the Big House, like 10-7, and losing records under Rich Rod, that's awful. It was awful.
Well, and I would feel the same way about Michigan as I would when, like Ohio State had those years where they were having long undefeated stretches. It's like, if you took Ohio State and they had a shit year or a chain of shit years in a row, especially a losing record, Michigan would have nothing to write home about at the end of the season. I mean, when those two aren't both good, and they don't play each other at the end of the season, there's nobody else on your resume that makes your shit worthwhile.
Well, I think that it was the year that Tressel got fired, and Luke Fickell, who's now at Wisconsin, who had a really nice run at Cincinnati. but Luke Fickell, and he played at Ohio State. He was their coach for a season, and it was that year that Tressel either got fired or had to resign or whatever. And I think Brady Hoke beat him that year. I mean, we can look it up, but I think we did. But again, and that was a stretch. That was one game in a stretch of like 15 years.
Yeah, it was
And I
bad.
mean, there were some of those years they were manhandling us. I mean,
Oh, you were hoping it
62
wouldn't
to
be a 40-point
yeah,
game going in.
62 to 20, and
Yeah.
when Don Brown was our DC, and I mean, Don Brown, I'm sure, has forgot more about football than I'll ever know. But man, you can't play defense against athletes the way he tried to play defense.
Well, and it was the
Remember those
perfect.
crossing routes all day, and I mean,
Well, that's it. It was the perfect storm. Like if you're blitzing and so you have to run man, and their bread and butter is slants and crossing routes. It's like if they get the ball past your blitz, which they're gonna, there's nobody there on the back end. They got more receivers than you do defensive backs. And
yeah,
it's
and
like you're
it
just
was just
screwed.
it was but that's what I mean. These last 3 years have been, and I remember at the tail of the dragon, and I brought this up on a previous podcast when we were down there, and there was the gal at the place where we stopped to get a hamburger at Deal's Gap, and I had on a Michigan shirt, and she said, "Are you guys going to be any good this year?" And I said, "Well, I hope we win a playoff game." Because we had been 2 years in a row, and Georgia smoked us. That was like 33-11, and it could have been
But
worse.
beating
Yeah,
Bama this year,
yeah, and then
that is what
and then
made it
TCU
special.
surprised us, and we shouldn't have lost at TCU. And then TCU got pantsed by Georgia. But yeah, this year beating Alabama in the semis, and Michael Penix at Washington has been really good all year. I've watched him a lot, and I always liked him. I liked him when he was at Indiana. He's a lefty. He's got a great throwing motion, and I mean, his accuracy was uncanny. And I mean, Michigan made him look mortal. They really did. Our DBs played great. We had some
And I
penalties
thought
in
they
the game.
affected his throwing motion. It
Sure
was when
did.
he can't step up, his unbalanced throwing motion is garbage. I mean, it looked like a girl throwing a shot put.
We sure did impact him. You betcha. And because he wasn't himself, and that's how we ended up winning. I mean, we had some
He
great.
also got hit by some big boys.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Like he didn't
He
just
got
get
him,
pressured; he got fucking
you know,
hit.
and we impacted the way he played in a big way because he's a really good player, and I think personally, I think he'll be a good pro. But
And
we'll
I
see.
wonder about that because his accuracy, especially on the deep ball, is fantastic when he's on. But the one thing he does is when he's inaccurate, he throws high into the inside. And that was the one thing you can't do against Michigan. And he did it, and it didn't work. And
Right.
that's the one thing you can't do in the NFL.
Well, and we'll see. He's going to need some coaching for sure, and he's going to need the right system.
Yeah,
Um,
and I'm sure you can
but
develop that out of him because the
right,
natural talent is there. I
no,
mean,
he's a smooth player, but we made him look not smooth. We really did, and it was because of the things you said. It was like I think Jesse Minter is a really good coach, and in the big scheme of things, if Harbaugh goes somewhere, which I think he very well may, I think he's had it with the sign stealing crap and these suspensions. And it's like there are NFL teams,
well, he's got nothing left to prove.
and there's NFL teams that are going to throw a lot of money at him, a lot of money. But I think if he does go, I think he's taking Jesse Minter with him. I would. He's a really good DC.
Yeah, I mean,
And
I don't know why you wouldn't at this point. And you know, back to affecting Penix, it's like just getting players on your team like Mason Graham.
oh
I
man,
mean,
yeah,
and that's what I noticed about Washington is like when It's not that Penix can't throw on the run or that he never rolls out. He can, but with the opponents they play, the pressure that they receive is a horseshoe. So the ends try and speed rush, wrap around the outside. They might try and do a spin move, but they're wrapping around the outside. He steps up into the pocket, throws a beautiful deep ball with plenty of space to take a full step into his throw. When you got Mason Graham coming at your center and your guard, and all of a sudden that horseshoe has a dent to where you can't step up, that'll fuck you up. And that's what it looked like. It looked like he was trying to throw on like a half a step. And it was
Well,
it wasn't
and
there.
and Grant too, and then you forget about guys like Jenkins who are bringing it every play. I mean,
Oh yeah.
Harrell, they're bringing it every
And
play.
then you had two frightening linebackers.
Colson's 250 pounds.
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
don't want to get hit by
and,
that guy.
yeah, and they bring Derek Moore. They rotate 8 or 9 guys, but Grant and Graham's in the ballpark in this, but Graham's a different kind of player than Grant is to me. Graham is very short, but he is brute strong. There's no question, and he can manhandle. He's a state wrestling champion, I think more than once.
He's like a wedge buster.
But that Grant, years ago, Jimmy Johnson said this about Leon Lett, who was a really good player. He said when he wants to play, you can't block him. When he wants it, there's nothing you can do.
It was like Shawn Rogers.
Yeah. He said that about Leon Lett. I think that about Grant. He is such a physical freak, and he's 340. That's what they admit to. Yeah,
Yeah.
Probably more than that. But, because I've weighed 340, and he's taller than me. But, he's like Leon Lett. When that guy wants it, you can't block him. I mean, Leon Lett, you'd see him make 3 plays right in a row. I mean, he's like in the backfield on the snap, and there's nothing you could do. That Grant guy he reminds me of Leon Lett, and he's bigger than Lett as far as heavier, but he's about the same height. I mean, they're both great big men, and you're right, Mason Graham is a stud. But I think there's a lot of guys leaving. Harrell's leaving, Colson's leaving. I see JJ's McCarthy's leaving, which I think is
so
big
stupid.
mistake.
Yeah.
That's a big mistake. But that's his business, and he's going to make a lot of money.
You know who Graham needs to go
Roman Wilson
get
leaving?
mentorship from? Aaron Donald.
Probably.
If you've got that type of leverage and strength,
Yeah.
and you're shorter, there's not a better person to learn from to use your hands.
No, I would agree with that. There's a lot of guys that are leaving, and so many of them because everybody got the extra year because of COVID. So there's a lot of guys that, like Jenkins could have stayed, Colson could have stayed, Harrell could have stayed, Roman Wilson could have stayed, JJ should have stayed, but there's a lot of guys leaving. So I wonder if Harbaugh's just going to say, this sign stealing crap. And again, if you did the crime, you do the time. I got no problem with that. But it's like everybody's got to be treated the same way. And that's been my grievance from the beginning. If you're going to punish one person for doing it, then punish everybody for doing it. But I think with all these players leaving, I think Harbaugh may very well leave. Like you said, he's got nothing more to prove here. And
I think he's losing his 2 favorites. Corum's leaving, right?
Yeah. And
so
he's
between
he lost
Corum
the
and
Super Bowl to his brother, which is an amazing. That's an incredible story. And and they're gonna throw. Well, Michigan's throwing boatloads of money at him, but the pros are gonna throw that much and more. And plus, he doesn't have the hassle of dealing with an antiquated organization like the NCAA. That's
it. It's like even take off the sign stealing stuff and all that, and it's like if you did it again, that's shame on you. But it's like all the way down to the cheeseburger bullshit. It would be so easy to take $100 million somewhere else and just go, I'm not going to worry about buying a player a cheeseburger, for God's sake.
Exactly. And
And I can live somewhere warm.
well, there you go. He coached at San Diego, at the University of San Diego. And he actually brought that program into prominence. He coached at Stanford, too. And he had Andrew Luck there. So, he's familiar with the West Coast. And his wife's from there. So,
Makes
I
you
wouldn't
wonder
be
if his
shocked.
dad has a secret love for college, though, and it might keep him there.
I don't know.
That was way cool, by the way. Who has it better than us at the national championship?
Yeah.
For those who don't know, Jack Harbaugh used to, when they were doing like chores out in the yard and all that stuff, used to yell out to his kid, "Who has it better than us?" And his kids would always have to yell back, "Nobody." And that became like a kind of a expression at Michigan, and because of Harbaugh, and after the national championship, his dad went up on the microphone and asked who has it better than us to the whole stadium, and I thought that was awesome.
It was
I
pretty good.
really did. It was like, yeah, get some.
That was pretty good. That was pretty good. But again, I'm with you. It's like he could so easily say, "I've had enough of this crap. I'm not doing it anymore." And so we'll see what happens. But it was a hell of a run. I was very happy that they beat Alabama. And because I'll tell you what, and we saw Alabama beat Georgia, and I knew Georgia was going to show Florida State that they didn't belong there, not without a quarterback.
Oh God!
I know.
What was it, 63-3 or something?
I don't know. But I knew it was going to get ugly. And God bless Florida State. They had a great year, but with their second string quarterback, who was in the portal and didn't play, they didn't have a chance at Georgia, who was still pissed over losing to Alabama. Anyway, I really do believe that a lot of Alabama people were already getting their tickets to Houston. They weren't worried about Michigan at all, because Michigan hadn't won, and they're Alabama, and that did my heart good to see them win that game. That was a satisfying.
It made me worried when we beat them, because so many people did what you were talking about with Alabama, where they wrote off Michigan. And then when Michigan beat Bama, everyone was like, well, congratulations on your national championship because you're playing Washington. And right. I was just like, oh my God, I hope we don't do the same thing. By the way, the final score was 63-3, Georgia versus Florida. Yeah.
Georgia versus
They put up 35 in the second quarter and took out their starters.
Well, again, they're pissed off. Jacob and I had this argument. I thought Georgia might make the playoff anyway, having lost to Alabama, because there's still only a one-loss team, and I thought they might make the playoff anyway instead of Texas. And he's going, oh, they got to let Texas in. And I said, well, if you think they're not getting an SEC school in, you're way off, because an SEC school's getting in. And no, it was a great run by Michigan. It was very satisfying. I'm just really happy. You don't run in, those things don't happen. I mean, we had one that, in my opinion, was not shared, but if you look at the history books, it's going to say that it was shared in 1997. But in my opinion, that was not shared. We won that outright. It was a time where people voted, and they didn't have all the analytics they had today, and Tom Osborne at Nebraska had announced his retirement. And so Nebraska, and they were a really good team, they got sympathy votes because Tom Osborne was retiring, and so they voted it, a co-national championship. Well, that's crap. We were, in my opinion, and again, I'm looking at it through maize and blue glasses. I get that. But in my opinion, we won that title. But again, that's a 97, man. That's 27 years,
Yeah, and it had been a minute, that's for sure.
things like that just don't happen very.
Very
Alabama's had a
often.
great run. While Saban was there, he won 6, and he won another one when he was with LSU. But and he retires. I mean, there's a lot of and then they hire Washington's coach, that Kalen DeBoer, and I don't know how that'll work or not. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. I do know I wouldn't want to follow Saban. That's like following Lombardi. You could do great, and people will hate your guts because
Yeah.
you're not Nick Saban. You
No, I
know.
agree with that, but I just think that through the hiring, though, it's like, boy, if he can do this with those athletes, imagine what he can do with Bama's athletes.
Well, again, he's got to recruit like he has. So we'll see.
But on the other sports side of things, we've got the Lions, which, you talked about how long it had been for Michigan to win a title. I was 7 when they won their last one, and wasn't really old enough to appreciate it. Last time they won a playoff game, I think, was the 91 season, and it had just become 1992, maybe. So I was 2 years old, maybe.
Yeah, Barry Sanders. Barry
And
Sanders and Chris Spielman played on that team. Yeah.
I I was real nervous watching the playoff game. I hadn't watched the Lions much this season, and it was because I watched 2 games and they got fucking stomped both games. And I was like, I might be their bad luck charm. But then I was just sitting there talking to myself, and I was like, if they were to win it and I wasn't watching, I would have to watch the next game. I couldn't watch, like, I can't miss a Lions chance at a Super Bowl run. So I might as well just watch the first round of the playoffs and hope for the best. And boy, it was tight. At first, I thought they were going to run away with it. It was a tight game. I thought it was a well played game. I liked that the refs were loosening up as the game went on, because I thought in the first quarter or so they were a little too tight, throwing too many flags. But when it was all said and done, to see how much it meant to Campbell and to listen to him, not only speak to his team, but single out Jared Goff and just tell him, it's like, when he gave him the game ball, he's like, well, I'm just going to say it like this. You're good enough for fucking Detroit.
Yep.
And it's like, I love that. That's the type of locker room you want to be in.
Here's my only. I agree with you, man. And I mean, I've been talking about my love for Dan Campbell for all through the time we've been doing this podcast. I really have.
He's a great
And
big motherfucker.
he really is, and he's done an incredible job. And I agree with everything. I'm a little. I just okay. Here's my thing about the whole Stafford thing. Stafford was a good citizen here. He was a really good quarterback and a really good guy. And we never put the right pieces around him, including a coach, where he could put us over the top. But that doesn't take away from the fact, in my lifetime, he is the best quarterback I have ever seen play for the Lions. There's without question, he is. Now, if Goff continues this, he can challenge him. But Stafford was here for 12 years, and he really was a good QB. And I thought, when they traded him, honestly, I was happy that the Rams won a Super Bowl, that he won a Super Bowl. I was.
Oh,
And,
100%.
and, and,
I agree with the jersey ban, as
yeah.
weird as that is, but I didn't appreciate the booing.
See,
You
that's
don't boo
what
that
I was
guy.
taking a long way to get there, and it's like, and that me too. It's like, come on,
That's
we're better.
bullshit.
We're better than that. We don't
Yeah.
have remain silent, but don't boo the guy. I mean, don't. He was nothing but a good citizen here, and
And
Goff
their
has been
family
as
did a
well.
lot in Detroit outside
Big
of
time,
football.
dude. Big time.
And
All
my
four
thing
of his
is, like,
kids are
to
born
anyone who
here.
didn't get to recognize Stafford in his prime, and like, when I was younger, I didn't appreciate everything he was doing just because they were still the same old Lions, and because Calvin was such a freak, it made you wonder how we weren't getting anything done.
Right.
But if you know how good he is, and I mean he's still good, but if you knew how good he was early and how strong his arm was, it's like people get all this shock and awe about Patrick Mahomes. It's like you want a guy with a stronger arm that's tougher and can do all the throws. Stafford's that. If Stafford was on the Chiefs when Mahomes went there, it's like Mahomes wouldn't have seen the fucking field. I mean,
Well,
Stafford has the strongest arm out of college I've ever seen.
yeah. I mean,
It's a
and yeah,
fucking missile.
and he does. And
I mean, did you see
I'm,
those
w-
sidearm throws in the
yes,
playoff game?
but
It's like,
I'm with you.
yeah.
He deserves better. Now, I'm not. I wanted us to win.
Yeah, I'm
You
okay with
know,
the jersey band, but you don't
yeah.
boo that guy.
No, it's totally uncalled for. It's classless. It's just classless. I did see, I remember when that trade was made, and we made a haul. They wanted Stafford bad. And everybody said that Goff, well, they have to get rid of Goff because they just signed him to a big deal, and it'll help offset the salaries because Stafford was already in a big deal. And, Goff was too. And so he was kind of like, well, you got to take him too. And Alan and I talked about that at the time it happened. Brad Holmes, who's the Lions GM now, he was director of college scouting for the Rams when they drafted Jared Goff. So he liked something about Jared Goff. Jared Goff went to a Super Bowl. He lost, but he went to a Super Bowl. And he made the Pro Bowl more than once. But Brad Holmes saw something in him, and that's what Alan and I were saying. It's like, I'm not so sure he's chopped liver, man. I'm not so sure that, and I
I
really
think I get
believe
it though,
that
because
Holmes thought that, and it's proven out to be true.
well, I think that's savvy though. Like that's what
That
makes him a
big
good
time.
GM is because like when I look at Jared Goff, the competitor in me, he's not as rugged as I want him. Like and not his reputation now, but when he was in the NFL, it's like I want a toughness of Brett Favre. Like I want
Right.
rugged, and Goff does not like, I don't know, exude that or give you that feeling about him. But for those who have football savvy, like it seems like Brad Holmes does, the one quality Goff has in spades, that dude's flatline 24/7. There's no peaks, there's no valleys. He's right here, he's steady, and the best thing you can have in an NFL quarterback is consistency. And it's
If
like
you,
he's right there.
the ticket, 97.1 The Ticket interviews him like every Tuesday. Have you ever listened to him on that?
No.
It's really good. And he's one of those guys, like you said, he seems really genuine. Like, there's a lot of things it'll be like he's giving you the company line, but he really feels that way. It'll be like they'll say something. Well, you threw for 400 yards, Jared, and 4 touchdowns, and he goes, and he'll say, well, we win and we lose as a team. He goes, it's always a team effort. He goes, I got guys making plays. I got guys blocking for me. Our defense is putting us in great spots. But he means it. You can tell he's a genuine guy. And
Yeah,
I
go ahead.
saw, there was a clip, and it's on the Score, and it's on, it's in the Lions. I saw it today. It was Brad Holmes in the elevator at Ford Field, going down to the field from, the luxury box where the owners and GM sets. And he was getting in this elevator to go down on the field after the game, and he was like pumped. He was, oh yes, in the elevator with a bunch of
That's
people.
awesome. Well, I mean, I'll say it as a Lions fan. It's like when you, not only the chills you get when they're about to win, like they're taking the knee, but then when you see the emotion on the players and the coaching staff, it's like, And you get choked up. This city's been missing that for a long time, and you never got that like satisfaction of the playoffs. And when it was finally here and we didn't piss it away, we got the first downs at the end to ice the game. It's like that was just such an incredible feeling. And then when you have a passionate coach like Campbell and you can tell he's holding back, it's like, man, that's like heart-throbbing stuff right there. That'll tear you apart. And then to just have the mind to even consider giving Brad Holmes a game ball.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
you're doing it right.
Well, they were joined at the hip. They both got 6-year deals when they hired in, and Spielman, again, Spielman's imprint on this team, man. And I'm just telling you. I don't know what his title is, but I'm telling you, he's got everybody's ear. And he is at practice every day. He is at least a tremendous liaison between ownership, field management, and general management. I mean, his imprint is on this team. It really is. And he was a very, very good player, made absolutely the absolute most out of his abilities.
Well, I think he helps the back end of that grit that Campbell's looking for.
Oh, yeah.
Like you get embraced by the higher ups with the same toughness, even if you said something that was, you know, a little off color or something. It doesn't matter. It's the intention and the intensity that you want.
I'm telling you, you're right. That is him. Grit is him. That's how he played.
You know, one of the cool things I was thinking about, and maybe other people have this perspective, maybe they all think I'm crazy, but it seems like when you look around and see perennial good teams, especially Super Bowl contenders and even champions, it's not very often you find one without a really, really good tight end. And although it's a very underpaid position compared to wide receivers and all that, when you look around, you know, 49ers, when they've been good, they've had Vernon Davis or Kittle. Ertz was good for a flash, you know, when he was with the Eagles, I think it was. When the Cowboys were good back when they had Witten. It's just even
or
Ravens.
Jay Novacek. Yeah.
Ravens had Heap. The Steelers had Heath Miller.
Yeah.
You know, and then you obviously people know Patrick Mahomes and Kelsey, and then they know Brady and Gronk. And I don't think I think it took a while for people to understand like the Laporta thing. But what a fascinating thing to watch. Not only have that safety valve who's a major red zone threat, but also to have potentially the toughest, most energetic, gritty coach who's a former tight end get a hold of an athlete rookie tight end and just go, we're going to blow the fucking doors off. That's just so cool.
He gets special coaching. And because, and again, Campbell was like that as a player. He wasn't a great NFL player, but you got everything he had on every play.
It's almost like he looked at Laporta and he goes, if you can have my head with your tools, we're going to do something special.
Exactly. And Laporta, they just announced it. Second team All-Pro, not Pro Bowl, All-Pro. Kittle was first team. He was second team.
Didn't he set the record for receptions for a rookie tight end?
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
Yes.
And then to come back from that knee injury and score.
Yeah. No, this is it's an exciting time. It's really fun, like you said, to see all this passion and this emotion. Because, you know, the clip you sent me, it was funny. Jacob had sent that to me. You know, was it Joe or you that sent the clip of Campbell in the locker room today?
I don't know. Could have been Joe. Could have been
me.
me.
Anyway, two of you guys sent it to me. and without knowing that the other one had. And that's how cool it was. Yeah, it was Jacob, and I thought it was you, but anyway, that's how cool it was. And I remember when, his first year, they sucked. It was bad. It was really bad. And he would be almost in tears at the post game conference, and he goes, "We're this close. We're getting it."
Well, we
And we're
lost so many
this.
one possession games
Yes.
where you could tell we were still trying. It's
Yes.
not that we gave up or took our
Right.
foot off the gas. It's just we weren't quite good enough. And I think
And
that's what yesterday's win was. Is it was us being good enough. Like that's a 1-point game,
yep.
and that is a game that my entire life the Lions fucking lose.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean, like you
all
could
the
bank on it that we turn it over or go 3 and out with 2 minutes left. They kick a field goal and beat us, and we'd be heartbroken.
the
My whole life.
majority of the talking heads on the pregame football shows picked the Rams, and not against the spread. They picked the Rams because the spread was 3 at kickoff. Lions favored. But again, that's a wash. If you're playing at home, that's worth 3 points, supposedly.
Right.
So the spread was 3. But most of the talking heads, the majority of them, picked the Rams. I do know Tony Dungy and Rodney Harrison both picked the Lions. And Gronk. I watched that, but I think everybody else on that CBS thing with Bradshaw and Jimmy Johnson and Michael Strahan and Howie Long, I don't
mean,
quote me, but
history's in their favor.
I think they all picked the Rams, but Gronk didn't. And then on the NBC, the Football Night in America. By the way, there's 2 games on today. There's a game that starts at 4:30. Buffalo and Pittsburgh. In Buffalo, they had to postpone it. And then there's one tonight. There's a game on at 4:30. There's a game on at 8:15, I guess.
You think everybody's gonna show up, or is somebody gonna pull a Cowboys?
Dude,
That was the ugliest shit of all
I'm not
time.
kidding you. It baffles me to watch that team play. And I never hated the Cowboys, but because of Jerry Jones, now I do, and I have for a while. But it baffles me to watch them yak in the playoffs. I
Yeah,
can't.
when I look at them, and I've never hated them, they've always, since I can remember, had a team full of powders, though. And I think that's why you get down in the playoffs, somebody blames the other one on the sideline, nobody ever recovers. And before you know it, the clock hits 0, and your great season just went straight down the shitter. Because anytime someone has a problem in the NFL, I swear the Cowboys fucking pick them up. It's like, let's get a
Well,
bunch of powders.
I'm telling you that again. I enjoy it because Jerry's a bully. I mean, he is a hell of a businessman, no question. He's a frickin' bully. And that roster is high paid talent, Bubba. I mean, they're a magician with salary cap. They're always mortgaged. They got a lot of high paid folks on that team.
Well,
They
I
really do.
appreciate them shitting the bed because I'll take the home playoff game.
And he does treat players well, and he treats coaches well financially. He does. I mean, when Tony Romo got hurt, he was in the middle of a big contract. And, they could have, said, "Oh no, well we're going to release your cut." He didn't do any of that. He paid Tony Romo every dime, and he never played again. And, okay, so you got the Eagles and the Buccaneers, and we'll play the winner of that game. And
Right.
that game's at 8:15.
And what a good comeback story for Mayfield, by the way.
Nice. And what the hell are the Eagles doing? Shit in the bed. They have sucked. I mean, they yacked down the stretch in a big way. They were going to be the number 1 seed, and now they're a wild card. I mean, they didn't even win the division. Dallas won the division. They're playing at Tampa, but the Steelers are at the Bills at 4:30. But
Boy, is Buffalo having the same type of weather we are, but colder? Because I don't know how you can play that game.
they postponed it. It was supposed to be yesterday, and because they had so much snow, they postponed it. They had to shovel out the stadium.
But I mean, it's got to be sub-zero.
Well, I don't know. I don't know how it is in Buffalo.
That's just wild.
But I would bet that it's not a whole lot more than what it is here.
Yeah. Well, usually it's colder, but I mean, I saw some of the colder spots, the wind chill. With the wind chill, it was going to feel like -20. And I mean, the coldest I've ever been in the wind chill was -27. And I can tell you right now, that is painful.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I know we kind of danced around, but back on the Lions and their win, one of the coolest things to see was what the broadcasters, I guess, focused on right after the game. You know, it's like you've got Barry Sanders and his classic smile, you know, because he gets to see it. And you've got Calvin Johnson out there, and and Eminem, and you get to see all these prominent figures that have been waiting for their team to win for so long. But then even after seeing all that, which makes you feel good, they've like focused on like a couple that they had picked out of the crowd where it's like, this guy's 89 years old or something like that.
Yeah.
And he's had been 66-year season ticket holder. And, you know, he finally gets to see this happen. And it's just, it was way cool that you obviously want to see the historic players and their reaction, but that they also went around to see the fans, and there were even interviews in bars at the city and stuff, and it was just really cool to, I guess, see the joy that we never get to participate in.
Did you see the Eminem introduction to the game?
I did not. I missed it.
Fantastic. It was great. It was
I'm gonna have to look it up.
It was just him talk. Oh, do it. It was.
Yeah, but he's got a motivational voice. If you're trying to pump up for a team,
it was awesome. I thought it was fantastic. I really did. Jacob and I had been texting, and I said, "Did you see Eminem's intro?" And it was way cool. They said that people that had their phone, set up were, getting warnings about sound decibel readings in the stadium. It was so loud. It's like exposure to this kind of level is going to cause hearing damage.
Yeah, after like 2 hours, you're going to be deaf. Yeah. I believe it, because you could tell after kickoff, they had to do something. They to the audio on the broadcast, because the crowd never sounded like it. It felt like we put a cap on it, not like the crowd did, like the TV broadcast network, because it was distorting everything else. You couldn't hear anything.
Yeah,
and
it was fucking great.
I mean, I remember when the Lions had a playoff game when we had Sue, and it's like they were insanely loud then, and it's like, oh, we're happy to be to the playoffs. This was, we're gonna kick your ass. And that level of volume was awesome.
No, it was fun. And we got another one and another home game, so we play the winner of the Eagles and the Bucks tonight.
Who'd have thought you'd ever be saying that?
I know, but pretty cool. I'm enjoying it, man. I enjoyed the ride for U of M football, and I'm enjoying this. The thing about this team, and they played the Ravens and they got waxed, and a lot of people get waxed by the Ravens, and Green Bay handled them, which I was disappointed in that, because we had them at home on Thanksgiving, and Green Bay handled them. But Goff had a terrible game, He had one pick six and another. I think he had two picks and a fumble. And so,
So he
and he
played
had
like
a
the
terrible.
Cowboys did.
But this team, they scare you. I mean, I
Oh.
think they can play with a lot of teams.
Well,
Like,
you could see it against the Rams. They have that rookie receiver who's just a bitch to
yeah,
tackle. And he's
Puka
bouncing off everything. Yeah,
Puka
puka my nose
Nakua.
out or whatever. Yeah, that guy. Puka Puka. You couldn't tackle him to save your life, and it's if
Yeah.
you're in a phone booth, he'd kill you. But it's like they had one guy, and when he wasn't open, there wasn't a whole lot going on. But the
Well,
Lions have like 3 or 4 receivers that are chippy like that, and it's like when you've got people, especially on the outside, that are willing to block or they are feisty as hell to tackle, or especially if you have both of those things, it's like, man, they can get after you, and it's like that energy it's not only contagious for their own team, but it's draining on the other
they
team.
they hit. They hit. And
That one tight end, I thought he got his leg amputated. Oh my god. That looked like it hurt so
oh,
bad.
all right, buddy.
Well, it
Yeah,
was awesome.
I'm
It was
wearing out.
amazing. Yeah, it was
I'm wearing
amazing
out.
to watch. I'm excited moving forward,
Yeah,
and to me, it's just it's way cool that we get to kind of be a part of it and watch and see
because we
how
usually
far this
don't.
thing goes.
Fair
Yeah,
enough.
I mean, but on that note, to all of our listeners out there, we apologize for the major delay, but we hope you stick around and you still like listening to us, and we'll continue to try and maintain a more standardized schedule, I guess, if you want to say that, and
Sounds good, man.
bore you guys with our sports talk.
We'll have more
So,
than that. We'll have more than that. The playoffs are always fun, but we'll have more than that. Lots of coaching changes, lots of stuff. But yeah, we'll have more than that. Always family stuff too.
oh yeah, for sure, we'll get some more family talk in there. But to our listeners, again, be safe, be smart, make good choices, and peace out. Love you, Dad.
Love you too, buddy.
Bye bye.
Bye.